The most powerful people on earth are those people that influence the most other people. Hi, Jim Ziegler, the Alpha Dawg. For 50 years, I have been a professional salesman, manager, sales trainer, professional speaker, magazine columnist, industry guru. And for 50 years, people have been asking me those questions. Ziegler, what is the secret to sales and success? What is the secret to wealth and prosperity, happiness? People believe that I could sell them a bag of magic beans that would change and transform their lives. Well, excuse me. I wrote the answer to all of those questions in the book, The Prosperity Equation, that I wrote 20 years ago. Success, happiness, wealth, prosperity, those are choices that you make. Those are decisions that you make. Success in life and business, in relationships, is a decision, a choice that you make, a point in your life when you achieve intensity and focus, when you get tuned in to your mission in life. Now, there's people out there right now watching this broadcast shaking their heads. Ziegler is full of, well, never mind. There's people out there in total disbelief when I say success is a decision, because they believe that their future and their success is determined by the zip code in which they were born. They believe that there are certain people who are privileged people that have the advantage and they will never make it personally. Well, excuse me. If you believe that, you're going to be right. Success is a decision. Success is a point in your life when you decide to be successful. And when I said the most powerful people on earth are those people that influence the most other people, influence is power. You don't want to be wealthy. You want to be influential. Money is a measurement of influence. Money is a measurement. It's only a scorekeeping mechanism. The most powerful people are those people that influence the most other people. Now, a lot of people believe that social media is going to be the key to success. Well, partially true. Social media gives you the ability to influence so many additional people, but it still boils down to relationships. My successes in life, whatever level I have arrived, I'm not the wealthiest person you ever met, but I'm certainly ahead of most people. You know, whatever position you have arrived at in your life is determined by the number of people that believe in you or are influenced by you, the number of people that you influence. Now, sales is influence coupled with persuasion and finesse. Persuasion is an incredible tool. The ability to change people's minds. The ability to make people see it your way. But you have to genuinely like other people. Now, one thing I can tell you right now that I learned in the Dale Carnegie courses 50 years ago. That's right, I was teaching Dale Carnegie sales courses back in the 1970s, the early 1970s. Before many people watching this broadcast were born, I was teaching sales. And one thing about Dale Carnegie, it's basic sales, but it's the best. And the reason I like Dale Carnegie is because back in the 20s and 30s, Dale Carnegie quantified sales for the first time. He actually quantified and put methodology behind sales. Yeah, there are techniques, there are methods to influence other people. When he wrote the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, win friends and influence people. If you can influence people, you will be a wild, raving success in your life. Now, one thing that Carnegie said that I really loved was the conversational things. You see, so many people selling automobiles, which is the industry I am in, although before I sold cars, I sold radio advertising, I sold encyclopedias door to door. There's people watching this broadcast that don't even know what an encyclopedia is. Encyclopedias were books that we sold pre-Google. Yeah, back before there was Google, Wikipedia, and all these other things, we actually sold libraries of people to educate their children. And I would knock on doors, cold calling people to buy encyclopedias. I sold vacuum cleaners. Well, not actually vacuum cleaners. I sold rainbow air purification systems. We didn't call them vacuum cleaners. No. Anyway, I sold mistletoe outside of shopping centers when I was 8 years old at Christmas time. I've been selling all my life. And one thing I learned is that selling is persuasion. And Carnegie taught me that no matter how unlikable somebody is, no matter how crude or rough or surly somebody is, there's something about them that you can pick out that's likable. As hard as that is, get that concept in your mind, and it helped me with car customers many, many times. Because one of my managers, Don Jenkins, who now owns the Jenkins dealerships in Central Florida, he was my general sales manager when I was with the Coggan organization early on. Don Jenkins taught me, he said, Ziegler, you're pretty angry at that customer right now. Yeah, I am. They've insulted you. They've been surly. They've been rude. You're upset with them. I said, yeah. He said, whenever I get upset with a customer, I have to ask myself, wait a minute, have I got their money yet? Think about that. Whenever you start to get upset with a customer, wait a minute, I haven't got their money yet. There's something likable about everybody. I never lose my cool with somebody that's surly or rude. They're only being defensive. They're doing the best they can. Now, Carnegie taught me there are 4 subjects of conversation. There are 4 things that you can talk to virtually anyone about. Now, one mistake that so many amateur car salespeople and managers and many salespeople in all industries make is you want to get right down to business. Mr. Customer, if I could, would you? If we could get this car in your budget, you'd own it now, wouldn't you? I mean, well, that question has a place in the sale. But when you get right down to business, you are not personalizing the sale. Now, one thing about sales is there's got to be, whether it's on the telephone, face-to-face in person, or on the keyboard. No matter what modality you're talking to these people, it's still a conversation. And there's got to be a conversation other than the car deal. There's got to be established common ground, establish a relationship. Well, there are 4 subjects that will make people like you. Family, occupation, recreation, and motivation. Now, those are my 4. Those are Carnegie's 4, but you could categorize them any way you want. You could come up with others, but those are the 4 that I'm going to present right now. Family, occupation, recreation, motivation. 4 subjects. Now, every salesperson has your personal inventory. Who are you? What are you good at? What sports do you excel in? What do you collect? What are your hobbies? What are your interests? What organizations do you belong to? Now, I would generally stay away from religion, but that is a common ground if they make it known and you have that in your inventory. Now, one thing you have to do as a salesperson is match your inventory with their inventory. I'll give you an example. I'm an Eagle Scout. I'll tell you, less than a small percentage of 1% of Boy Scouts ever make it to Eagle Scout. It's a very rare fraternity, and it is a leadership quality to be an Eagle Scout. Not only am I an Eagle Scout, I am a member of the fraternity of Boy Scouts, Order of the Arrow. Yeah, I believe in scouting. I believe in scouting wholeheartedly because it teaches leadership. Leadership. It teaches personal skills. It teaches integrity and honesty. You are never going to be a success in this business or any other business if you are not, here's an archaic word, if you are not a decent person. Say what you will about Jim Ziegler. I am a hard ass. I'm a tough guy. But I'm a decent person, and I'm an honest person. And I've always stuck by my principles. Even when it hurt me, I stuck by my principles, and I always had personal integrity. Say what you will about Jim Ziegler. You will not say he's dishonest. You will not say he doesn't have integrity. You'll not say that I'm not a decent person. I don't care what else people say about me, but those are values I have that I will defend. And you need to have that to be a success. So when I'm an Eagle Scout, many times when I was selling, when I was performing F&I, when I was closing deals, I had a family in front of me and their son was in scouting. And I said, I'm an Eagle Scout. And in the car business, people tend to look at you like, bullshit, yeah, you're an Eagle Scout. Sure you are. You found out my son's in Scouts, therefore you say you're an Eagle Scout. That brings me up to point number 2. Always have an evidence manual documenting your personal inventory. Okay, in my personal inventory, I have Eagle Scout. I just came across some people who is a scouting family and their son's in scouting. And I say, I'm an Eagle Scout. Now, there tends to be a lot of incredulous people out there. Oh, yeah, sure you are. But I have this evidence manual, and in that evidence manual, I've got my little Eagle Scout card, a newspaper clipping that was in the Florida Times-Union newspaper when I made Eagle Scout with my picture, and my Eagle Scout certificate. Now, what else am I going to do with those things? I've got them mounted in my desk in a photograph album. And whenever scouting comes up, matter of fact, I've got my Eagle Scout certificate right here. Third-party verification of what you're telling people. You were a high school football player. You've got photographs of that. You've got some documentary evidence of that. You're a woman who was a cheerleader, or you were on in the marching band, or you were this, that, or the other. You've got some documentation of that. What, are you going to leave it in a shoebox in the bottom of your closet? No. Bring it to work. Mount yourself an evidence manual about who you are. So that's your personal inventory. Me personally, I was in the Tough Guys contest, which was the precursor to Ultimate Fighting. Now, I was a terrible fighter. I got knocked out in 45 seconds in the last fight I was in. Whew, I was terrible, but I was in it, and I've got documentation. I'm a journeyman in 3 trades. That's right. Right out of high school, I worked for the Naval Air Rework Facility as an apprentice. And long before I started selling radio advertising, and long before I became a disc jockey, I became a journeyman in several trades. Now, I've got my journeyman certificates in that album because people would never believe that. you're sitting there in a suit, a coat and tie, which I wore to work in my day. And I'm telling this worker at Lockheed Aircraft that I'm a journeyman in the same trade that he or she is? No. But I've got my certificates. I've got proof. So I strongly suggest that a professional salesperson creates an evidence manual detailing who you are and your personal inventory. I've got my Eagle Scout certificate right here. So the 4 subjects: family, occupation, recreation, motivation. When I'm selling a car dealer on my services today, and I go into the dealer's office, the first thing I do is I look at the shelves in back of their desk. You know, they generally have on the wall somewhere their diplomas. They have pictures of their family. They have other memorabilia sitting around for things they've done. Pay attention. Family. And the first thing I'll say is that your wife and family? Or that your husband and family? Wow. Are those pictures of your kids current? And all of a sudden I'm showing interest in them. Now, by the way, this is genuine. I really like to know about people's family. Matter of fact, many times I will go on Facebook or LinkedIn and I will actually research the people that I'm going to go meet with. And the same thing with your customers. Family, the number one subject that you can establish common ground relationship. I have a family, you have a family. I had this experience, you had this experience. Family, the number one subject of conversation other than the deal. You guys and you women are in such a hurry to get to the deal. You don't establish any relationship with the people, no common ground. Common ground, something I have in common with you. Names. People's names are important. Those of you watching this broadcast that know me, you know that I am the master at remembering people's names. And for years and years and years and years, for years and years, I have been known to be able to tell people's names. I once did an F&I seminar in Cleveland, Ohio for the Cleveland Auto Dealers Association, Greater Cleveland. And there were 150 people in that audience. And a couple minutes into my lecture, I said, put your hands over your name badges. And I named all 150 of those people back to themselves after I knew them for less than a half hour. Now, granted, that takes some tricks I learned in Carnegie many years ago. That takes a lot of concentration. People's names are important. There are things on the internet right now with me naming 60 and 70 people back to themselves in a conference or a seminar. One of the things that Carnegie taught me was get their first name and use it. Now, people want to call you Mr. and Mrs. Jenkins. That's cool. If you're a 20-year-old young woman or a 20-year-old young man and you're dealing with a 65-year-old blue hair, gray hair, maybe you do want to call them Mr. and Mrs. Jenkins. But if I'm 30 years old and I'm dealing with 30-year-old customers, it is important to get to a first name basis with them. You will know very quickly if you can get away with it. In the second Clint Eastwood movie, the first one was, do you feel lucky, punk? Do you feel lucky? Remember that? Do you? You know. Well, the second Clint Eastwood movie was, a man has to know his limitations. Now, I'm sure Clint meant a man or a woman has to know their limitations, but that was the 70s, and the theme was a man has to know his limitations. Well, a car sales professional has to know your limitations. If I can get away with calling somebody by their first name, I'm going to do it as opposed to Mr. and Mrs. Jenkins. Once again, that's a barrier that you break through. People have zones of closeness, zones of proximity. Are you in their outer circle or are you in their inner circle? How close can you be with these people? Can I call them by their first name? I know if I can get away with that, I know my limitations. So if you can get away with it in a friendly way, if you've established enough relationship with the people and you have a common ground, attempt to get on a first name basis. I can sell something to Carl and Susan a lot quicker than I can sell a car to Mr. and Mrs. Jenkins. Understand that. Not always possible. Know your limitations. But if you can, do it. You're not a waiter in a restaurant talking up to them. You're trying to get on their level as their consultant, helping them to make the second biggest decision, purchasing decision of their life. So anyway, family. If I can talk about children, if I can talk about family in any way, that is a great subject. The second subject is occupation. What do you do for a living? If I have some experience in that, great. What do you do? Tell me about that. Tell me about that is one of the strongest personal things you could do with somebody. I'm on the sales desk, and somebody comes up to me and says, Mr. Ziegler, I've got some customers here. Okay, great. What's their names? And I go through all of that. I said, what's this guy do for a living? What's this woman do for a living? And the salesperson says, they work for Lockheed. Okay, Lockheed Aircraft, world's second largest aircraft manufacturer. What do they do at Lockheed? Big company right here in Atlanta. What do they do? Well, I don't know. Okay, they work at Lockheed, but you don't know what they do for a living. So, let me ask you. Lockheed, they have vice presidents that make billion-dollar international business deals. There are employees at Lockheed that make billion-dollar deals. There are other employees at Lockheed that go around and put little scented styrofoam wafers in the bottom of the urinals in the men's room. Now, is your customer a vice president or a wafer placer? Just because you know where they work doesn't mean you've gotten any relationship with them at all. You don't know what they do there. They're in the Army. Is this a general or a private? The infantry? Or are they clerical? What do they do? Occupation. Be interested. Be interested. The biggest thing I can tell a salesperson about be interested is, tell me more about that. Really? That's fascinating. Tell me some more. I don't hear that with salespeople today. If we can get this within your budget, you'll do business now? Now quit it. That has its place. But get away from hammering the deal. Run your inventory. Get to know these people. What do you do for a living? Where do you work? What do you do? Tell me about your family. Oh, your son's going to this college, your daughter's going to this college. Tell me about that. Boy, I bet that's expensive. Whatever. Be interested. Tell me more. Family, occupation, recreation. What do you do when you play? You're a chess player? Hey, I'm a chess player. You like the Atlanta Falcons? Hey, I live in Atlanta. No, humor. No. If I'm a Falcons fan, you're a Falcons fan, we're going to talk about the Falcons. Philadelphia, those people are raving fans for the Eagles. Find out what their sports are. And you've only got a couple seconds to find out which subject you're going to talk about. Family, occupation, recreation, motivation. You know, you're a chess player, I'm a chess player. You know, oh, you belong to this organization? My father belonged to that organization. I belong to that organization. Whatever. Tell me more about that. Motivation. Motivation is one of the strongest questions I can ask a consumer. Oh, you just graduated from college. Where do you envision yourself being 5 years from now? The 5 years from now question is so strong. Oh, you just got married. Where do you see you guys being 5 years from now? Oh, you just got divorced. Where do you see yourself being 5 years from now? Oh, you're joining the military. You just got in the Army. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Oh, you just got out of the military. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? Oh, you just got out of prison. Where do you see yourself 5 years from now? You know, whatever. The 5-year question. What's your plans? What's your hopes? What's your dreams? What's your desire? What are your dreams and schemes? That motivation is one of the strongest subjects of conversation. Now, don't let it be too long. I mean, a sale has a tempo. A sales has a rhythm. You know when you are in the rhythm of the deal. You know when you are outside of the rhythm of the deal. Get into the rhythm of the deal. And when the deal starts to flatline, bzzz, change the subject, get out of it, move on. Family, occupation, recreation, motivation, the 4 subjects that'll make somebody like you, or at least get closer to you, to trust you. You know, and don't ever say, trust me. When you say trust me, you're basically announcing I'm not trustworthy. Don't ever say trust me. There are certain things you do and do not say in a sale. That's one of them. So when you are establishing a relationship with somebody, get their first name and use it. Be cordial. Make eye contact. Talk to the husband and the wife. I see so many people deal directly with the husband and ignore the wife. You know, who's got the power in this relationship? I'll tell you, when I shake hands with people in the beginning of the sale, I oftentimes will shake hands with the wife first. You know, this is perception. This is, pay attention. You know, who's in charge of this relationship? There's usually one dominant partner that's making the decisions. And they might not even be the dominant partner. They may be, who is this vehicle for? What do you like about this vehicle? What do you dislike? Now here's one. What do you dislike about this car? I learned that from one of the top salesmen in the United States, Frank Crinetti. Great friend of mine, Frank Crinetti, Pennsylvania. The guy sells as many as 140 cars a month. And when he said that, it just blew me away. What don't you like about this car? Yeah, let's find out. If there's a sticking point, let's find it out early. So, family, occupation, recreation, motivation, those are concepts that I actively think about. Success is a choice. I choose to be successful. I choose to have relationships with the people. Now, one of my biggest skills in sales is relationship marketing. One of my biggest skills in sales is follow-up. And let's face it, most of you are terrible at follow-up. You really don't follow up with your customers. And that's a shame. The other skill that so many of you are really weak is prospecting. Prospecting, reaching out in the community and bringing customers in. Now, in future videos, I'll be talking about prospecting. I'll be talking about follow-up and referral business. Now, the best way to get referrals is to give referrals. And every time you call a customer back, don't get right into business. Keep a diary on the conversations you have with your customers. Now, you've got CRMs that'll greatly increase your effectiveness. Diary your conversations. If a customer told me that their son was going to be going to such and such a college when they graduate from high school in 2021, 2022, they name a year, I might call that customer 6 months from now and say, "Hi, Susan, Jim Ziegler. I just called to do a little follow-up. I don't have a business agenda for this call today." One of the strongest one-liners in a conversation. I don't have a business agenda for this call. I just want to see how you're doing. How's the car doing? Have you visited the service department? Were you treated correctly? Is the car performing okay? Is everything going well? Did your son get into that school? How's that going? Tell me more about that. Sometimes I don't have a business agenda for this call. I'm not calling to ask you who you know and who you can refer to me, not on this call. I'm not calling to sell you something, to trade you out of your car. I'm just calling to see how everything's going with the car you have bought. Has my dealership treated you correctly? How's the family? Did your husband get the job? Did your son get into school? I'm just calling to do a little follow-up. How's everything going for you? Many times, if you're calling them every call, you're hammering them to do business. You're hammering them for a referral. They start screening your calls. One of the weakest things I hear people say to me as a manager, "Did you call your customer?" "Well, I left a message." "Why did you leave a message?" "Well, I got their voicemail." Well, maybe you got their voicemail because they no longer want to talk to you. They're screening your calls. They don't want to have anything to do with you because every time you call them, you're hammering them about buying another car, referring somebody to them. They don't want to hear it. They bought a car from you. They didn't want to marry your ass. Excuse me. You got to finesse the sale. I can't tell you how many times I've called somebody and said, "Look, I don't have a business agenda for this call. I'm not trying to sell you something today. I'll do that some other time. I just want to be sure that you're getting good performance out of your car. Did you have the first checkup? Did you bring it in for the first servicing? How were you treated? Tell me more about that. Did your son get the promotion at work? Did they get into the school? Whatever." Because I've got a diary of what we talked about last time. I know exactly. Or I'll call them up and say, "Hey, John, Jim Ziegler. Now, I know you own the electrical company. I have a customer that needs an electrician. Is this something you'd be interested in? Let me hook you two people up." The best way to get referrals is to give referrals. Many times, I have a diary of my phone conversations. I know what my customers do for a living, and I will hook up customers with other customers or other people I've met that need their services. Hey, Susan, listen, this is Jim Ziegler. I have a customer, and I've already told her she's going to be hearing from you. Her name is Cynthia Higgins. She wants to sell her home. She wants to move to the Johns Creek part of Atlanta. I know that's where you do a lot of your sales. Would you be interested in listing her home and helping her find a new home? She's expecting your call. Let me hook you two up. Wow. She bought a car from me. She didn't expect that. So once again, success is a choice. People talk about hustle, but they don't have hustle. They think hustle is just moving fast. Hustle is organization. Hustle is concentration, and it's focus, it's intensity. It's paying attention to your business. I hope this helped. I'm going to be doing some more videos on different parts of the selling effort. Everybody knows I'm going through some personal challenges, and I'm a lot thinner than I was. Hey, listen, I'm going to be posting a lot of things like this. Let's see your commentary on this video, what you think. Alpha Dawg, have a great day.